Senior Director of Volunteer Engagement at the United Way of Pioneer Valley. On behalf of UWPB, thank you so much for being here this morning as we introduce part one of a learning series we're calling So You Think You Want to Be on a Board. You think you want to join a board. This session is part of an ongoing program for anyone interested in exploring board-level volunteer opportunities through conversation-style presentations by highly experienced local nonprofit mentors. You'll have a chance to learn, ask questions, network, and walk away with resources and tools to help you determine if board service is right for you. Volunteerism has always been important to the United Way's model, whether it's large-scale events like Day of Caring or year-round opportunities to collect and distribute goods to those in need. Our mission at UWPB is to mobilize community resources to meet the needs of our neighbors. Through Board Basics, we address volunteerism at the leadership level. We offer this learning to community members like you for the benefit of the many social service agencies in the Pioneer Valley. So parts 2 and 3 of So You Think You Want to Join a Board will be held in August and October, culminating in our annual matching event in December. We'll share the information at the end of the presentation. So it is my pleasure now to introduce our facilitator for today's session, Shannon Mumblo.
Good morning, everybody. It is nice to see everyone here today, and just great to see what a wonderful turnout we have. Thank you, Allie, for the introduction, and to Megan and the team at United Way of Pioneer Valley. So really excited to kick us off with part one of a 3-part series. I will be your facilitator today, and we have 2 other wonderful facilitators that will be with you for parts 2 and 3, and we hope you come back for that. So Sarah Tanner, who is the principal of the Financial Development Agency, will be facilitating part 3, and Rima Dial, who's not able to be here today, but who's the CEO of the National Federation for Community Broadcasters, will be here for part 2, which will focus more on the governance of board service. So we'll dig into part 1. I know that some of you are coming here today having had some experience on a board, but maybe just want to learn a little bit more. Some of you have never been on a board, but have maybe volunteered, and others of you are just contemplating, what are my next steps? Do I want to volunteer, or do I want to be on a board? So we will give you 5 things to consider before joining a board. And I'd like to just start us off with some introductions. Again, my name is Shannon Mumblo. I come here today with 23 years of experience in human services. My background is as a licensed independent clinical social worker. I'm a registered nurse and an ordained minister. I have an experience helping my mother-in-law start a nonprofit of her own. Was on the first set of board members, and also was the executive director. So I come with the different frameworks of sitting on a board and also being the executive director of supporting the board work and having that sort of framework. I currently serve on 3 boards. One is Parent Villages, the other is the Ride to Remember, and the other is the Wilbraham and Hampden Academic Trust. So all different kind of nonprofit organizations, and I'll share a little bit with you about experience, because I think experience is our best teacher sometimes. I will say that I'd like this to be a process where it's not just me speaking, but that we're engaging together, so that we're active together. We're going to discuss an overview of nonprofits, because before you consider joining a board or volunteering, I think it's really important to understand what a nonprofit is and a little bit of the framework around that. And then we'll dig into the top 5 things to consider. So those top 5 things are your purpose. What skills do you have to offer? The benefits of joining a board, the investment in joining a board, and the time. And then we'll end with, what if you decide that joining a board is not right for you right now, and giving you some next steps for that. And then if at the end of today you're like, yes, I'm ready to join a board, next steps for you in that. Any questions so far? Great. So we'll begin our time today with just sharing a little bit of an overview of nonprofits. So I'd like to hear from you. What is a nonprofit? How would you define a nonprofit?
An organization that doesn't pay taxes.
Great.
An organization that reinvests its profit into the organization.
Wonderful. Anybody else? You're both correct. So a nonprofit is tax exempt. It starts with a mission. So every nonprofit, I spoke with you before, you were interested in starting a nonprofit, so what would your mission be?
To assist youth, underprivileged youth, just provide a more holistic way to grow.
Great, to assist underprivileged youth and provide them with a more holistic way to grow. Wonderful. They don't make a profit, they operate for charitable purposes only. I move around a lot, so I'm trying to be able to see you, and I'm sorry if I go in front of the light, but state governments govern and regulate nonprofit organizations. So when you start a nonprofit, there's certain paperwork that you have to fill out that goes to the state, and then there's annual requirements that every nonprofit needs to make sure that they are following. This is a really important point. So in a three-sector society between government agencies, for-profit organizations, and nonprofit organizations, nonprofits kind of fill in that gap between the government and for-profit organizations. Does that make sense? So really important to consider. They provide a service that benefits the community and is efficient at addressing unmet needs, and that's kind of the gap that they fill. They're owned by the public, and they are the only sector in which you do not have to be a professional to be a part of a nonprofit or to help start a nonprofit. So I shared with you that I helped to start a nonprofit in 2010. My mother-in-law was the visionary. She was a nurse, and she started a nonprofit, which was an educational and transitional home for women and children experiencing homelessness. She had no experience in doing that, but it is still alive and thriving and doing well today. So you can be a mail carrier, an accountant, you can be somebody totally different and starting a nonprofit that is unrelated to what you're currently doing. So nonprofits are small but mighty. Another very important takeaway for today when you're thinking about joining a board or volunteering, you are going to be a pillar in helping them kind of move forward in their journey. So what you bring to the table is supporting them and lifting them up. So according to Nonprofit Impact Matters, most profits are small, they're community-based, they're local. 92% spend less than $1 million a year, and 88% of those spend less than $500,000 a year. When I had helped start a nonprofit, we literally had about $10,000 in the bank in which to use to talk to a bank to get funding to be able to purchase our first home, to be able to bring women and children into that home. So when I say that nonprofits operate with a little and do a lot, it's really true. And then nonprofits employ, another really important data point, 10%, over 10% of America's private workforce, which is more than manufacturing, construction, and finance, just to give you a sense of their importance as well. They operate with a little, they employ a lot, and they do a lot with a little. And just, so speaking about funding, just a little bit of information on where the funding comes from. And I'm sure I was just talking to Megan Moynihan, the executive director of United Way of Pioneer Valley, about funding. We're constantly in this search for funding to lift up the mission of what we're doing. So again, as a board member and volunteer, you will have an important piece of this work in kind of sharing out the work that you're doing. So 64% of giving is done by individuals like yourselves, foundations, giving by bequest, or people who have willed or given a certain amount of money to organizations, and then giving by corporations. Any questions so far? Yes.
My wife might want to start a nonprofit. Would she contact you?
Absolutely. There's actually another person in this room that I met today that helps organizations as well. I encourage all of you to network today because there's such a diverse group of individuals here from varying organizations. Great question. So one of the interesting facts is that giving nationally, there's actually an increase in donor-advised funds. So donor advised funds are that in which I say, I would like to give to a community foundation or another foundation or an organization, but I'm going to advise that my funds only be given for this purpose. So if I am really passionate about education and I give to your organization, I say, I only want this money to be used for your program that provides education to youth. And so just to kind of give you a little bit of background around where people are giving and where they're advising their funds to go to. Yes.
I have one of those, but in ours, we have it through Fidelity Investments, and we can direct it to whatever charity, as long as it's a 501c3 charity, I think.
Yes.
It
Yes.
doesn't have to be just one.
Yeah, so as you think about board service and volunteering, one of the things you may do is actually give, and knowing that you can advise your funds to be directed in a certain area is important. So how many nonprofits are there? There are about 1.97 million nonprofits operating in the United States, and of those, about 1.48 million of those nonprofits are 501c3 tax-exempt organizations. Why do I make that distinction? Because as I mentioned, when you are filing to become a nonprofit, there are different statuses that you can apply for. We're going to focus on 501c3s because there are a lot of them, and that's primarily where people are serving on boards and volunteering. As of 2022, and this number I know has gone up, over 33,000 nonprofits were operating in the state of Massachusetts. So what does that mean for all of you? That means that you have a broad array of nonprofits to choose from. It's a good thing if you like to have many things to choose from. Maybe you're somebody that's like, I don't even know where to start. That's a good thing because we have United Way of Pioneer Valley here to help you kind of decide where you want to go and where you want to serve as well. So many nonprofits to choose from. These are just a small sampling of local nonprofits in Western Massachusetts that I've worked with or know, and just a small sampling, different sectors in which they operate, whether it's food insecurity, working with animal welfare, United Way of Pioneer Valley, mental health, so all different types of nonprofits, and we're going to just talk a little bit today about, what is your passion and where do you want to serve? So did you know that nationally there are 64 million nonprofit board members and other volunteers? So when you think of that number, what I want you to really take away is that you're not alone. So the people that you work with, your family members, your friends, maybe they've served on a board, maybe they've volunteered, and I really would encourage you as you walk away today and think about your next steps to talk to people. Ask them about their experiences, ask them what's gone well, what they wish maybe they did differently, what they've learned, maybe some barriers for them, learn from them. You're not alone, that's the biggest takeaway that I want you to have today. So we'll move into the top 5 things to consider before joining. And I'd like for us to actually move into a little bit of an activity together. So we're going to take the next 5 minutes or so, and I want you to think about these 2 questions. I'm going to leave them up on the screen right here. Where do you find purpose? And what skills do you have to offer? If possible, I'd like you to find somebody that you don't normally work with. And we're going to work in dyads or trios if there's an uneven number of people. And we're going to take the next 5 minutes to talk about these 2 questions. I would love for you to make sure that you all have time to speak and share about this, and then we're going to come together and talk about it. Okay? So Sarah and I are going to keep time. We're going to walk around. So take 5 right now. Find a person or 2, and we'll move into these questions. Call on people. What was it like to listen to somebody else?
Oh, I was just scratching my cheek, but I can go. It was incredible to listen to Jennifer's story, just because actually we're pretty much opposites, which is pretty awesome to find someone that can fill the gaps of things that I'm not strong in, like skills that I don't have, and vice versa.
Yes.
And it just reminded me of how important it is to build a community and a network of people that can help you with whatever your mission is, and vice versa, and how you can help others.
Yes, that's a really important point, because what you don't ever underestimate what you have to bring, because you may be filling a gap that's needed on a board or in volunteer service. So that was a great example of, you know, two different skill sets or purposes, but together, like, you'd make an incredible power team, right? Anybody else? One last comment? So additional things to think about, we really talked about a lot of it, but you're going to find fulfillment in serving. So when you think about what your purpose is or your why, when you think about your skill sets and you kind of find an organization that aligns with those, you're really going to find fulfillment and joy in doing that. You know, think about the focus areas that matter most for you. Is it education? Is it working with youth? Is it working in food insecurity or people experiencing homelessness? Whatever that is for you, make a list. Take the time and be intentional to think about that. Do you like being involved in groups, or do you like to spend your time alone? This is really, really important. So if you are somebody that has a hard time engaging in large groups of people, really think about that, because boards can be as small as like 6 to 8 people, and I've seen boards as large as 30 people. And so you might have to come out of your comfort zone, and really thinking about what that's going to be like for you is important. Volunteering, you can absolutely find ways to volunteer in a space that is, maybe it's just you solo organizing food, folding clothes, doing something. Volunteer service can absolutely be something that you do in a more individual basis. Knowing your skill sets will help you and the nonprofit understand where you can add value, direction, and potential oversight. But the other key factor here is that just because I'm a social worker does not mean that when I join a board, I have to help with the governance aspect of putting together, helping to think about the mental health services for that organization. Maybe I do that all day long, but I want to come in and I really want to help organize events or fundraising. That is perfectly okay. But if you know that about yourself, being upfront and transparent in how you communicate with the organization that you're interacting with, like, just because I'm an accountant, please do not put me on the finance committee. I do not want to be your treasurer. I just want to be, here's where I really want to focus. So again, another really important point about being intentional and writing down the areas of which you feel like you want to serve. So again, just because you're a banker, don't assume that you need to join the finance committee and join a board, okay? So consideration number 3, what type of investment will you make? I'm going to open it up to you. What type of investment do you think you need to make when considering joining a board? Time, okay. What else? Money? Anybody else? Talent. Great. Yes, to all of the above. You're also going to need to travel. Gas costs money. Car repairs cost money. You are going to need to travel. That is an investment, a financial investment. You're absolutely going to be making a financial investment. Some nonprofits require a minimum yearly investment to serve on the board. You're also going to be probably participating in fundraisers and events. That's an investment. You're going to maybe need to buy a dress or a suit or new shoes or whatever that is. That's an investment. In-kind donations, so whether it's housewares, clothes, food, whatever that nonprofit may need, in-kind donations are an investment. The other really important piece, and not everybody knows this, is know the benefits of the organization for which you're currently working with. If I serve for 6 hours for board service, my organization may pay me for that time, and they may also double that investment and donate back to the organization the time in which I then invested. If I donate $300 to your organization, my organization may double that investment and therefore doubling the impact. So another consideration is to know the benefits of where you work, because there may be something there that gives back to the organization in which you're serving on that you didn't even know existed. Personal investment. So if I'm giving 6 hours of time to your organization, I'm also being intentional about the fact that I can't give 6 hours of time to something else. So that is an investment that I am making, and knowing that you need to give up something to be able to do something else is really important. Energy and motivation, loyalty and dependability. So when you're joining a board, that board is going to depend on you. They're going to depend on you being loyal to that board, so making sure you're aligned with their mission and their values is really important, so that you want to be loyal and you want to show up and you want to be dependable. There may be a board meeting in which there needs to be a quorum for a vote, and if you don't show up, they might not be able to vote on that, which then pushes something back for them. So really important to consider. And then a willingness to collaborate, learn, and listen from other board members. So why do you think board members should give? We just talked about the investment, but why should you give?
Because you want to.
Because you want to. Why else should you give?
Because you'll be asked to ask others to give, and they'll ask how much you give.
Yes. I love it. What else? Because it's natural and necessary, and because it comes from the heart. Because, giving, like you said, helps other people to also give. If you're on a board and you're asking somebody else to give, but you're not giving, it's going to be less likely. They're going to be like, well, do you give? And you're like, well, no, not really. So do I want to give if you're not giving, right? So it demonstrates your commitment. It doesn't need to be millions of dollars. However, if you have that and you want to give that, I'm sure that organization would love that. But it just needs to come from the heart, and whatever you feel like you can give personally is really important. And the other important piece of this, and I've had this experience, some funders require that all board members contribute in some way. And so that's why a lot of boards will have a requirement that you give a minimum amount. So asking that question when you're thinking about joining a board is important as well. So time is also another piece of investment, but thinking about time as its own standalone consideration is also really important. Where are you at personally in your season of life, and what time can you invest in the organization that you're going to be working at? So most board members will have to serve and will meet monthly with their board. Some boards meet every other month. Some boards might meet quarterly. Those meetings can last 60 to 90 minutes. Some boards meet 2 hours, 3 hours, it depends how often they're meeting. Some boards meet in person, some are hybrid, some are virtual. So again, taking into that consideration of time for travel as well. You might have subcommittee meetings, so there might be a finance meeting, a governance meeting, a fundraising committee meeting, so committee meetings will take additional time. Fundraisers and events, networking, so taking the time to actually network is a consideration. Planning and preparation for meetings, extremely, extremely important. I've been on a lot of boards where board members show up, they were given a budget, an agenda, minutes from the last meeting, and people haven't read them. So when you show up to a meeting, taking the time to be prepared, to actually look at the documents that were prepared for you and sent to you so that you can be intentional with your time and how you're actually interacting, and so that you know what's happening.
Part of the thing I didn't like about the board I was a part of before, not mentioning any names, was they would give us the packet, like 20 pages of stuff, budgeting, financial, different reports and stuff. The day that we showed up for the meeting, I was like, can we have that a day or two before so we have time to read it?
Yes, and that actually is not uncommon. I've been on many boards, and I think I appreciate your point, so thank you for sharing that. There are a lot of boards where you will get the materials the day before or the day of the meeting, and put yourself also, I think, in both hats, right? As an executive director and also serving on a board. That may be, an executive director for a nonprofit. They're small but mighty. That executive director is wearing a lot of hats. So it took them a lot of time to be able to put that together for you. And they may have been doing 1,000 other things behind the scenes that they wanted to get it to you a week before, but just weren't able to. So maybe that's more of a question of how can we as a board support the executive director in putting some of these things together. So just thinking outside the box a little bit about how you can be a catalyst or an agent to support that process as well. Take the time to get to know the organization in which you are thinking about serving on. Do not take this lightly. If you're thinking about joining a board, I highly encourage you to reach out to them, schedule a site visit, go take time to meet with one of their team members, ask questions about what they do and how they do it. Maybe you want to volunteer there first, get a sense of the organization. Spend some time with them before just saying yes. Oftentimes, a board might come to you and say, we need your help, can you join our board? It's okay to take the time to think about it. You don't need to have an immediate yes, and actually I encourage you not to have an immediate yes. Take the time to go see them, ask questions, and make it an interview from both sides. There may be emergency board meetings, so a lot of times something comes up that needs an immediate vote, and somebody may reach out to you and say, we need to have a vote tomorrow, I need you to convene. So there's that time investment as well. So giving comes from the heart. I promised I'd share a personal experience. For the last 11 years, I've been on the board of the Ride to Remember, which is a local nonprofit that recognizes all fallen first responders. It started with police officers. This has been an amazing journey. I just spent about 9 hours of my day on Sunday in the rain under tents outside for a fundraiser for them. It was cold. It was wet, but it was an amazing day. We raised $18,000. $10,000 of that went to help fund cancer research and support, helping families from police officers who've experienced or experiencing cancer. My car is filled with water. All of that I went to go pick up and use my investment of strength to be able to put in my car and bring to where I needed to go. So as a board member, that is an investment of my time, my energy, my resources, not just sitting at the meetings, which are very important, but it was really intentional and it comes from the heart. And this picture is Gus Garcia. He owns Springfield Pizza Pie. And so that's another example of networking and getting out in the community. People want to give back, but if they don't know how, they don't know where to start. So you're helping to be that catalyst for reaching out and engaging community members. So consideration number 5, what are the benefits of volunteering on a board? What are the benefits?
Feel good?
You feel good. What else? Why are you thinking about volunteering on a board? What do you think the benefits will be for you? Helping others. Right. It's a new experience and learning opportunities. I can say that time and time again, being open and willing to collaborate and listen, I've learned so much. And I hope that I've also imparted, my knowledge and given back in that way as well. It feels good to give back to something that matters to you, stepping out of our comfort zone, stepping out of our day-to-day, and just giving back. Feels really good. You're also, you're being a role model for others as well, whether it's family, friends, people you work with. When you give back, they're like, oh, what are you doing tonight? They're like, can I join you? Can I go do that? So then you're being a catalyst for change. Learning and growing from your work with others. You're helping to fill a need. There's so much need out there, and people are in need of your help and your skills and what you have to offer. Maybe you have a gap in your resume. Maybe you had to take time off for whatever reason, and you need something to, kind of put back on your resume. This is a great way to get started. It's also a great professional development opportunity in your leadership journey. It's a great way to grow your network and add some spice to your life. So going to events, finding different ways to collaborate and work with others, it just kind of gets us out of like the day-to-day of what we're so used to just getting up and doing. So there's the AAA board that I wanted to share with you, this framework by Kay Sprinkle Grace. And it really just talks about being the AAA, the ambassador, the advocate, and the asker. So everybody can be an ambassador, so you can really know the mission and personally give to it. Most people can be advocates, where you know the why and the how of the organization, and you can kind of go out and begin to make the case for that why and the how. And then some people can be the askers for the organization, where you really, let's say, for example, there's a fundraiser coming up and you've really understood what needs to be asked for. Maybe there's different levels of sponsorship. The event is actually, has a theme, and there's something very specific about that event that you now know about, that you can be the asker and go out into the community and ask for support for that foundation. So the ambassador, the advocate, and the asker. So we're coming to the end of our time together, and I want to be intentional about leaving some time for questions today. But what if you're leaving today and you're feeling like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to join a board? That's perfectly fine, and I think that's a really okay place to be. But I want to leave you with some things to kind of take away. Volunteer. If you're not ready to join a board, volunteering is a natural next best step, because it allows you to get that experience of collaborating with the organization, learning about an organization. Maybe you're thinking, I want to work with youth. Finding an organization that supports youth will allow you to volunteer there. Maybe you volunteer there and you're like, maybe I don't want to work with youth. Maybe I want to work with animal welfare. So you can choose. I shared with you that slide of how many nonprofit organizations are just in our state alone and in Western Massachusetts. So you have that ability to volunteer. Talk to somebody in your network who's volunteering and maybe ask if you can tag along with them. Serve on advisory groups. Organizations, I'm sure United Way of Pioneer Valley is hosting other events, or they know other organizations that have potential advisory committees or ways that you can get involved. Maybe at your current organization, you can ask if they know other people that have advisory groups or places where you can volunteer your time. Become a part of a fundraising or event committee. Find ways to advocate for causes you feel passionate about. That could be as simple as going online. I know on Facebook all the time I see different ways for you to vote on or advocate for. Do a simple search, talk to people, think about ways that you can advocate to help an organization. I'd like you to be intentional about identifying the barriers that you may have to joining a board. I talked to somebody earlier and they're like, I've been thinking about this for a while, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to. So sit down and take 5 or 10 minutes and think about, is it your time? Is it your confidence? Or is it you're just concerned that you don't have enough resources? If you feel like you have the time and maybe it's the confidence, what do you feel like you need to build that confidence? Is it just having somebody to talk to? Maybe it's just jumping in and saying, okay, I'm not super confident, but I'm just going to do this. And then resources, again, it's really about can you get to where you need to go, and how much do you feel like you can give that is not going to be a super stretch for you. And then again, we talked about this. Find somebody who served on board and make time to talk to them. And then how do you find volunteer opportunities? This can, some people asked me, their hope for today was, to be able to connect with places where they can find volunteer opportunities or board opportunities. Sometimes it's like, I don't even know where to start or who to call, and where do I go for this? You're in the right place. United Way of Pioneer Valley is the perfect place to begin to connect with somebody. They have their Volunteer Connect program, and I know that they're working on ways to connect people to boards as well. So you have multiple members of the United Way of Pioneer Valley team today. I encourage you, before you leave to connect with them for next steps around this. The link to their organization is here. And then find your local chamber of commerce. It's actually a really good resource for you. They have a ton of nonprofit listings, and again, you'll get this slide deck, so you can just visit their website and look there as well. Do a Google internet search. Western Massachusetts, animal welfare, nonprofit organizations, or youth organizations, or whatever it is that you're interested in. Just search and begin to see. And then, you know, research them a little bit. And then if you feel confident, make the call. Attend a networking event. There's lots of local networking events. And I'm sure anyone from the United Way Pioneer Valley team can, give you resources. Sign up for local newsletters. The organization you may be wanting to work with probably has a newsletter sign up. Sign up for the newsletter. See what they're doing. Talk to a colleague or friend, and then contact the nonprofit that you're interested in. So, if you still want to join a board, what is the next step? I talked to you early on that this is part 1 in a 3-part series. So we encourage you to attend all of them. The next one is coming up Wednesday, August 14th, same place, same time, and my colleague and friend, Rena Dial, like I mentioned, will be facilitating that next training, and we're going to talk about board service through governance. And that really concludes our discussion today, but I really wanted to be intentional about leaving time for some questions, and I'm here and Sarah is here for questions. So I open it up to you. This is your time. There's got to be some questions. Or did we cover it all?
So who you talk to when you want to convert a for-profit enterprise into nonprofit?
So I think that's a great question. Have you researched? Yeah, I mean, I would research, who to connect with locally around starting a nonprofit. I think looking at what the state requirements are, going to the state MassGov website about how to start a 501c3 is a great place. There's somebody here in the audience who actually helps nonprofits get started. But there are a lot of requirements. Yes.
I have a question. You mentioned advisory groups.
Yes.
What is the big difference between a board member or a board and advisory?
Yeah, so an advisory groups can be more like a subcommittee, or just like the name of what it is. You're advising on a certain topic. Sarah, do you want to say something to that?
Yeah, and that's a great question. This is something Rima will get to as well when she talks about. So a board actually does carry a legal responsibility that's named in the bylaws. So they are carrying they're carrying a load there, whereas an advisory group isn't bound to those same requirements. They don't carry the same legal compliance pieces that a board would. So those are it's a little lighter load as an advisor. And typically doesn't come also with the financial expectation that a board position would come.
Thank you.
Yeah. But to also just plug, what Rima will talk about in her session truly is understanding what is the role of the board from that legal responsibility standpoint. So you really are aware, you're not just signing up on a board to be part of their letterhead.
Correct.
You are carrying a huge responsibility in the overall governance of that organization to uphold their bylaws. So understanding exactly what that all entails before you venture into this keeps you that much more prepared. So that'll be her detail.
Yep. So today we really wanted to focus on those initial things to consider before taking next steps. And so next series will be, okay, I'm really ready, so what do I need to think about governance-wise, and what is that responsibility, right? Other questions? How many of you are leaving here today feeling like you are ready to take some next steps in joining a board? Show of hands. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm gonna,
Yeah.
we have this readiness quiz, again, that you can take with you, that we can pass out.
So yes, we're gonna give this to you today. So for those of you who want to take those next steps, this is your board service readiness quiz that we're gonna pass out. So again, take the time to do that. I think it's a really great way for you to kind of see where you're at. And it's from Board Source.
Do you want us to fill this out now?
This is a reference for
This is
you,
It's
just as you do your own.
Again, you're gonna
Okay.
get the slides from today.
Board Source also is a wonderful resource. I mean, the link is on there at the bottom. As you look at what board responsibilities are, the board role entails, it's a great place. I want to look.
So, take some time now to get to meet some of the people who attended with you today, talk to some of the United Way of Pioneer Valley team members. Was there something you wanted to say, Megan?
Thank you all for coming, and this is just the beginning, as Shannon said, of a series about learning. I really would love you all to take the time to really connect and understand what your passion is, and reach out to Ally, reach out to other nonprofits to really understand the work that they are doing. I started a career in nonprofit by volunteering. I had no idea that this was going to be my lane, going to school for finance. I was finance, and then I started volunteering and became incredibly passionate about the organization that I volunteered for, and it has turned into an incredibly fulfilling career. So I really charge you with go out and learn about your community, learn about the different organizations. Just in the Valley, you will be shocked at the different nonprofits and how they uplift our community that you are a part of every single day. I mean, you start small. Go network with other nonprofits. Go to a chamber event. I mean, it all starts with communicating with those in your community. So I just start small, and it's incredibly fulfilling. Even if it's a half an hour a month where you're learning about what goes on in your community outside of your day-to-day, it can be really fulfilling and empowering. So thank you all. Feel free to connect. Reach out to Ally. We are here to help. We can connect you with other nonprofits, resources, Shannon, the other trainers that will be working with us. So thank you. I hope you learn